Okay, we are live, sir.
All right, we'll consider ourselves called to order for the special call meeting of the Calvert City Planning Commission. The date is January 27th. The time is 5:30. And the first item of business will be the approval of the minutes of that January 6th special call meeting. You have those minutes sent out to you. Any questions or comments on those? If not, do I hear we approve those?
So moved.
Motion by Ben, do I hear a second?
Good.
Second by Gary. All in favor, wave at me. And I believe that motion carries. All right. So John, you want to lead us through the plat? I think everything's finished there, I believe. I saw the letter from FGR.
Yeah, HDR has sent the letter.
Hey, John, before you do that, let me tell everybody, I represent Donnie on a regular basis, and I've represented him with regard to this subdivision also. I'll be glad to represent the Planning Commission here, but in order for me to do so, everybody would have to understand I represent the Planning Commission and be okay with that. If anybody has any hesitancy whatsoever about that, speak up and I will just not represent anyone. I'll stay out of it.
Are you like saying that you would not speak?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
I
I'd like
will-
to see that.
So we
Just
have
one,
a vote
for
from
like-
Mark that no, we're not putting up with
We
that.
caught him in a lie.
Okay. Okay, I'm out.
You're
conflicted out.
just gonna mute your mic. We know you'll be talking. We know. We understand. No, Greg, you're perfectly fine to represent all of us. So we're glad to have you. So no problem. I think we did this last week. Last
Everybody,
month.
ask everybody. Is that okay with everybody?
Everybody wave it. Everybody wave it, Greg, if that's okay.
Good
Everybody
thumbs
go.
up.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. We had a couple of items from the preliminary to the final that needed to be addressed. One of them was the language in the approval letter from HDR on the road. That language, Greg spoke with Matt Browley, and he has provided that. You all have since received a copy of that.
Right.
And so that should take care of that. Items on the plat that needed to be addressed. Location of street signs, which we have here. Oh, wait a minute. Let me share the screen right quick so you can see. Everybody got a copy of that, did they not?
Yes.
Okay, the one
Yeah.
thing that changes that you will see here that is not correct, and I'm going to share that right quick. This is the ownership listing on this plat that I'm showing you. Now, it has been corrected since then, okay? If you all look here, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, you'll see the owner developer says Travis Construction. That is incorrect. It's FNT. So that has been corrected on the plat now that we have. This is just the PDF that we had prior to that. Greg caught that today.
Okay.
And Donnie has gotten those updated and signed, and they're here. Other items were the roadway itself was still part of the tract, and we had it in several locations not done. We didn't close the property lines here on Dr. Smith and here on Tiffany. We have since done that. The other is we took this line around this parcel as adjoining property when it should have been part of the tract because it actually is the tract boundary. So that's been corrected as well. It was a dash line. It's now solid line. So there's a street sign there, street sign there. The cost of the street signs has been provided to Mr. Travis. He has completed and provided the funds for that. So that is covered.
Hey, John,
Yes, sir.
there you go. That's what I was going to ask you to do. I couldn't see the top of this thing. Okay,
We'll keep going. There it is.
that's good.
So. I really think that's probably, I can't remember anything else. Can you, Bruce or Greg, remember anything else that we needed to address? That because I thought everything was handled based on what we were talking about.
You've got street signs and stop signs up there, right?
Yeah, they're listed on here. Here's one. You see this right here?
Yeah,
And then the other one is right here.
yep.
Okay.
Is that a stop sign and a street sign?
Yeah, the street signs sit on top, atop the stop sign.
Stop sign, okay,
Yeah.
good enough. All right. Looks fine to me.
Any of the planning commission members have any questions? All right, Mr. Chairman, we feel that this is correct to the best of our knowledge and research, and so we now turn it over to the
All right.
commission to make the decision on the final plat.
Do I hear a motion from the commission to accept this final plat?
I'll make the motion.
So
to
moved,
accept
yeah.
the final.
We have a motion by Ben. Do we have a second?
That was from Gary.
Gary, you made a second. Any discussion?
Actually, Gary made the motion.
Yeah, I thought,
Was that Gary?
I'll second.
All right. Gary made it, Ben made the second. All right. Thank you.
Sound like Ben now, so.
Yeah. That's a compliment, Gary. All right. All right. No discussion? All in favor, wave at me. Got a wave. That's motion approved. All right. There you go, Mr. Travis. I'll come down to City Hall in the morning, get that signed for you, so you'll be ready to go.
you know about what time you'll be in, Mark?
Well, what time's good for you, John or Crystal? Just let me know.
8:30. You know,
All right. We'll just turn on
8:30
about
and
8:30.
yeah, and then Donnie can pick them up after 9.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Right, Donnie. Thank you. All right. Next item of business would be the discussion on the schedule of uses related to truck or transfer terminal freight and motor freight stations. John, what you got there?
What we have is probably an unlisted use. We're running into a situation where it looks like we have the possibility of what I call a classic trucking company utilizing semi trucks and trailers with maybe their dispatching and some mechanical work. And we really, all we have in our schedule of uses is what you see: truck or transfer terminal freight and motor freight stations. So it's not sure that that's where that fits under that definition. However, in looking at, I've contacted, Bruce and I have contacted Paducah and talked to Josh Summers, who is the planner over there. I've talked to Zach at the Warren County Planning Commission. And then Bruce has some information from the Owensboro zoning ordinance. And anything to do with the trucking or freight industry fleet is in an industrial zone. What I'm finding is a lot of them don't have a use that is just flat fleet maintenance or fleet rather trucking company, but you have, as it's referred to in Warren County as, give me just a second here, the wording was fleet. Figures it's bounced around enough that I probably lost it, but it was anyway, that was in Paducah. They don't have schedule of uses like we do. What they use, they look at it as storage. Trailers, semi-trailers are storage, and they're listed to be only in industrial zones. Anything to do with freight, fleet maintenance, storage, also are in industrial zones and not in and anything doing freight movement is in industrial zones. Although they're not necessarily specified as trucking company. The exclusion to that is when you've got vehicles that are at the convenience stores on the highway. And the other one would be truck sales. They look at truck sales separately. Warehouse and freight movement firms. Accessories, truck fleet parking. Okay. An accessory use on warehouse and freight movement list truck fleet parking and maintenance areas.
You're not talking about our schedule of uses, are you?
I am not. I'm talking about another city and how they handle the trucking industry as far as the trailers and et cetera. They're calling it, or referring to it in Warren County. They will refer to it as truck fleet parking and maintenance, or maintenance areas. And I will share the screen if you'd like to see that.
You're saying this new proposal is not going to be in the industrial area?
I said it would be in the industrial area. That it needs to be in the industrial area. Everywhere else I've looked at, that's where the
I don't see the
trailers, my
difference
trailers are
in
going.
truck.
But these,
To me, a truck terminal is the same thing. What's a truck terminal?
well, that's, again, that was the question.
Yeah, I had that question today, Ben. And this is as from the lawyer's standpoint, kind of the way it breaks down. We do have a truck and freight terminal. We have that use, a truck and freight terminal,
Yeah.
which is where you load and unload,
Right,
load and unload trucks, and that's in
Right.
the industrial area.
right.
The thing, what's happened is that because trucking has become so valuable, I mean, everybody's getting into the trucking business these days because there's not enough trucks out there. Everybody complaining about they can't get
Right.
anything, they can't get anything. So what's happening is these guys are buying trucks and running these little trucking companies. And when on those rare occasions that the trucks are not on the road busy, they just park them somewhere. So what we're winding up with is truck parking lots here, there, and and we've got one shaping up in Calvert City, maybe 2 or 3 shaping up in Calvert City. And so we've got truck maintenance. We've got a use for truck maintenance. I mean, we got an item in our schedule of uses for truck working on trucks, mechanic work on trucks. We've
Right.
got one for truck terminals, loading and unloading trucks. What we don't have is a place for truck parking lots, which is basically what we're talking about here. We've got the other 2 peripheral uses addressed. We know where we can work on trucks, and we know where we can load them and unload them. We've already got that in our schedule of uses. What we don't have is, where can you just park one?
Okay.
Or better yet, where can you park 10?
See, if
And
you
so-
look, look at the screen here. You see D, it says warehouse and freight movement. It talks about warehouse and freight movement of goods and items and stuff like that. And it lists the truck fleet parking as an accessory use to the warehouses and freight movement. And I guess that's one of the reasons I think that it has to do with that it's still part of the truck terminal to some degree. Now, whether that's the way you guys look at it or not, I don't know. That's what I need to find out from you all.
Yeah, what's about to happen is John is going to be faced with, there's a place where a fella owns some trucks and he's parking a bunch of trucks on his property, and he's running
Trailers.
He's running, trucks and trailers. When I say truck, I mean the whole thing.
Okay.
He's parking that stuff on his property when it's not out on the road working. And so what you've got is, in our particular case, in a B2 area, you've got a bunch of trucks being parked there. And so the question then becomes, okay, do we need to identify, because a freight terminal, truck terminal is where you load and unload. That's not real clear. that includes a place where you park trucks when you're not working them. So we just need some clarification. If you want to treat them just like, if you want to treat parking trucks for purposes of where you can do it, just like you do freight terminals, then we can just sort of expand that little definition of that item and include it in that. Let me add though, we have a problem, a couple of places in Calvert City where existing businesses seem to be allowing semi trucks and trailers to be parked on their property for extended periods of time. And we don't have a good regulation of that. So we might, in effect, kill two birds with one stone by maybe creating a truck parking, parking of semi trailers and semi trucks for longer than 2 days or whatever, 1 day, 2 days, whatever, and create a use, and that then sort of takes care of both of those issues.
I think there's a difference though, when you talk about fleet truck parking and those who are on the road with freight that have stopped in to get fuel and have to stay down because their 8 hours is up. And that's a little different when you're looking at Love's truck stop where they're parking, or maybe another convenience store, as opposed to an actual fleet parking or a fleet management or freight area.
It is different. You're right. It is different, but is it different in a way that we want to regulate them differently?
Well,
Do you want to allow them? Do you want to allow them in different zones? Or are you going to treat them the same? If you're going to treat them exactly the same, then all you have to do is say truck or trailer parking.
No,
and you cover it.
I think you look at that possibly as an exclusion, because otherwise
An exclusion from what?
that you don't look at those as a fleet management area, because that's a transiting public and not a fleet management area or a freight terminal or freight or trucking company or whatever.
I don't understand what you're saying.
What I'm
I mean, I
saying
understand
is
there's a difference.
the ones you're talking about, I assume, are the convenience stores.
Yeah, the convenience
Love's.
stores. Sometimes, I don't know if it's still going on down in the old Suds R Us area or not. It used to be in the old Suds, old corner. And then
Mini
Love. Yeah, the convenience stores, they're parking trucks there and leaving them. Do you want to treat those differently than you would treat something else? Is the issue parking of semi trailers, or is it something else? If it's parking of semi trailers, then we can just we can cover the whole gamut with one use, parking semi trailers. You're right. It is.
I don't think you can.
Parking.
I don't think you can.
How would you treat them differently, John?
Well, it's the use. You've got somebody that's transiting versus somebody that's
How would you treat
running a
them
business.
differently? Would you allow them in different places?
If it's a fleet management, that needs to go in industrial.
What if it's otherwise?
If it's transient, that's different. You've got somebody that's coming through, they're staying overnight and then leaving.
So if you say parking a truck there for more than 24 hours,
I think you're gonna get into a situation like that, because all the guy in the trucking business got to say, well, they don't stay there for more than 24 hours. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's an accessory, it's an incidental use to a station that fuels semis. All of our development plans for both Speedway and Love's include truck parking areas, because that's incidental to what they do. Now,
okay, you guys now understand. John and I can't agree, and we can't find our rear ends with both hands. So,
All right.
so
Well-
fix it.
Okay, so here's the first thing. To me, where we have trucking terminals and allowed in an industrial zone, truck parking there should be, that's part of it.
Yeah.
If you're loading trucks, unloading trucks, parking trucks is part of the function of that. So I don't see any difference there. Now, what I do see a difference is Love's and Speedway at places like that are truck stops that are truck refueling stations. We know that trucks sometimes park there and stay overnight. And I don't think there's anybody would have a problem with that. Where I think the problem starts, and I don't know what's driving this issue, but I do know that we've got trucks being parked at Minute Mart that is really becoming the, not overnight, but it's the waiting for the next load place. And again, I'm not knocking that, but I'm not sure. I think that's where a problem comes in. If we start parking things that are not truck stops for more than 24 hours or more than, I mean, and even then, I don't know how you regulate that, because unless John and Bruce are going to go around and put a stopwatch on every truck to set there for 24 hours. And we don't want to do that, but is that not what part of the problem is, what we're really trying to solve?
Oh, actually, what I'm trying to solve is the fact that I've got somebody that's trying to run a trucking company like PTL, only on a small size, out of a business, commercial district. He's got the tractor trailer set in there, dispatching from it. He's got tractors that are coming in there, and he's got doing maintenance. So it's just basically a like a small a family size PTL trucking, Pascal Truck Lines, or something like that. And they're doing it in a commercial area. And that's an industrial use, as far as, you know, it's not a incidental to that area.
So you've got something going on in a B2 zone, what you're talking about.
Yes,
And
sir.
yeah. So the question, I guess then the question comes is do we want to allow trucking companies in a B2? Or, and again, the one caveat to this, if FedEx wanted to put a terminal in on Long Valley Road, that's I don't know that we would want to object to that, you know. So an HOC3 having, you know, a truck terminal there, I don't know.
Well, I know that any so far, anybody that I've talked to, those type of operations are limited to their industrial complexes or industrial areas, not the commercial areas.
Well,
I mean,
but
that's
there
your all's
again,
call, but that's
I would
what
go back to look at Paducah and where the FedEx and UP or the FedEx terminal is. That's not an industrial zone. They're on Husband's Road or John Purrier Drive.
I don't know that that's in the city of Paducah either.
Oh,
That
think
may
it's
be outside
outside.
the city.
Okay.
I can check. And
But I
see.
guess my point being, though, is that I would see that like a FedEx would want to be close to the interstate. So therefore, and again, would we want something like that in an HOC3? I don't know that. I mean, that'd be because my knee jerk says, I'm like you, John, it seemed like the industrial area is where the trucking, I mean, liquid transport needs to be an industrial place. We know that, but UPS, an industrial place, I don't know.
Very.
Because Greg, you're right. I mean, we know that there's more and more likelihood of trucking companies. We know that's expanding. That business is going to continue to expand. So where do we want to put the UPSs and the FedExes? Because they're not going to go in the industrial zone in Calvert City. They wouldn't.
Right.
They wouldn't want to be in the industrial zone. It's too far away from the interstate. And we wouldn't want all those trucks going through Calvert City. So, you know.
But right now we've got those clearly fall within a freight terminal, and they really are industrial. We've got those relegated to industrial right now.
Yeah, I right.
But these little trucking companies, you know, with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trucks, those are the ones that don't really fall in any hole right now. We don't have an area for parking trucks. We're just parking trucks because those guys are not going to work on their own trucks. They're not going to have mechanic shops.
Right.
They're just
right.
going to have a yard where they can park their trucks while they don't have something for them to do.
As far as the tractor goes, if that's your tractor, you can park it in your yard. There's nothing, the state will tell you, you cannot regulate them from parking their tractor in their yard or their driveway. You know, that you might can stop them from practicing, putting the trailer there,
Right.
but you can't stop them from taking the tractor there. I ran into that before.
Yeah.
So,
But so I guess I go back to the same thing is, would we want to allow small trucking operations on the 62 corridor?
That is a question. Yeah, that's a question that's a threshold question that needs to be answered.
Yeah. Because again, I think we're limited in the areas that we would probably want to allow it. The 62 corridor possibly. And again, I could see an HOC 3 on Lone Valley Road as a possibility, but you know, beyond that, probably not. Would be my knee jerk thinking about it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would think that if you were to do something along 62, again, you'd have to limit that to the type of freight that's being hauled. Because we wouldn't want hazardous materials hauled in and out of a terminal that's on a 62 corridor. But there again, I go back to if you're hauling, you know, if you're an Amazon trailer or an Amazon truck.
Okay. So John, have you, this situation that's in you say it's in a B2?
yes.
Are we getting complaints? Is this just what you're saying? Is it something?
No, it's a zoning violation right now because they've never applied for a zoning compliance to begin with. And in looking at it, we discovered that all we had was the use that I showed you that we're talking about.
Mhm.
And we were trying to determine, did you include a truck, was a trucking company or fleet management company, however you want to define that, was that type of a company included in this use? As Greg said, do we need to expand the actual definition or the title of it maybe for that purpose? Or is it a new use? And that's what we're trying to establish now. And then if it is a new use, then where does it go?
Where does it go? Yeah.
But if you go out there, I don't think that you want any kind of a trucking operation or freight operation basing itself right there on 62. I mean, that destroys everything we're working for. All the work that you guys have done on aesthetics, I think that's just, you know, we make people put brick on the front and we turn around and let them put in a trucking company across the street. I don't know that that's what we want to do, but again, I don't make that call. You do. But I just want you to think about the aesthetics that goes with it and what we're trying to do with that corridor.
And there might be a difference between the B2 part of that corridor and the HOC part of that corridor.
Well, I don't
You might
disagree with that either. The HOC 3 is I think Mark's right. The HOC 3 is a support to the HOC 1, and it might possibly be that. I know we set it up originally, if I'm not mistaken, for a mixed use type, could be high density mixed use, whether it be businesses and residential. But I also know that, you know, that wouldn't be a bad idea or a bad area to have something like a FedEx or a distribution center.
Or maybe even one of these little parking lots for trucks that we're talking about. Well, like
Right.
behind Love's. I think everybody's saying they're not really offended by people parking trucks behind Love's. Am I wrong? Did I pick up on that?
I don't see how you could be. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of part and parcel to Love's. And again,
Yeah.
unless we got a Barney Fife that's going to go out and clock how long a truck's parked there, we really don't care. You know, if a truck's there for 8 hours or 36 hours. Now, Love's may care, but that's Love's problem, I think, not necessarily the city's. But that's there for that purpose, I think. So
Seems logical that if you're going to have a truck stop you shouldn't have a truck stop if you're offended by trucks.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So, but that's HOC 1. That's not, Love's, I think. In fact, I don't think we've even designated an HOC 2 or 3 out there yet, have we, John? It's all
We got
HOC
HOC
1.
1, 2, and 3. Yeah, we got the 3 zones, yes.
Yeah.
We've not designated anything HOC 2 or 3, have we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's in the
We have?
development plan. Yeah, we've got a whole, are you talking about scheduled uses? Make sure I'm
I
understanding.
thought that on the map. We've not designated any map
Yes.
area for HOC 2 or
Yes.
3, have we?
Yes, sir. We sure have.
Really? Where is
HOC
it?
1, 2, and 3. All 3 of them are set up.
Where is HOC 2?
It basically behind and adjoining HOC 1.
Is
Right.
any of the Love's parking lot in HOC 2?
No, most of your HOC 2 is going to be where Tag and we're back up behind, give me just a second, up behind Cracker Barrel.
Oh,
That's your
I was
HOC 2 area, and HOC is further back than that along Lone Valley.
I'm living in a prior lifetime. I thought we originally designated it all HOC 1 and said after some development takes place, we would go back in and figure out which part was 2 and 3.
No, sir, I'll show you the map.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought we went behind. We've done a quarter behind the main quarter there, at least around the interchange.
Yeah.
Let me share this with you. Actually, HOC 2, well, there is 2. It's back. Let me see if I can get all this in here where you can see it. Okay, let me share the screen with you now. All right, you guys see that now? HOC 1, this is Love's Speedway. This is Cracker Barrel. This is the trailer sales. HOC 2. This is back up on the hill behind Love or Speedway. And this is Tag.
Okay.
Freight Ducats. For those.
Yeah.
And HOC 3 is this area
Golden Valley
behind
Road.
the, that's like a Ford property, I guess. And then HOC 3 also reaches back to the boundaries here. Across from Gary and Mr. Maybe Mr. Story's property.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So yeah. And your B2 starts just west of the Cypress Lake trailer or RV center, RV park. That's
Well,
where
it
it ends here. Sir,
It kind of looks like our 2 truck stops are in HOC 1. So whatever
well,
we do,
yes.
don't want to prohibit trucks being parked there.
Well, that's incidental and part of the development plan. Truck parking for truck stops is incidental, I would think.
Right. I'd agree with that.
But truck businesses right here, and that's where I'm looking at. Right here.
I don't have my computer in front of me. John, we don't have a use called truck stops, do we?
We don't have what now? No, we do not. It's
We just have-
convenience stores
Convenience stores and
or
refueling.
fueling stations.
Yeah. So is parking of trucks incidental to refueling stations? Because if it is, that means Minute Mart, parking of trucks at Minute Mart would be incidental.
If they sell diesel, it would be incidental. Yes.
I don't know.
But the development plan shows that. I mean, they've got parking places laid out in their development plans. Both of these did. Okay. You guys need this anymore?
No, I think it's
No,
good.
No, no.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad it's you guys' job, not mine. This one's hard, kind of.
And I don't know.
Yeah, sort of question. The first question is, how do you want to break down the consideration of uses? Do you want to think in terms of freight terminals and fleet parking? Or do you want to make it, or do you want to do it more simply, like just parking a big truck? But both of those have their own problems built in, because if you make it, because they apply to situations that you may or may not want them to apply to.
Right.
And at this point, now understand that this was brought up based on speculation on our part. We don't actually have the zoning compliance to actually tell us what he's wanting to do there. But the indications show that. So I don't know if it's something that you guys need to ponder. Or if you're, I don't know if you're ready to make a decision tonight, but we can actually do some more investigating to see what other communities have done. But
hiding behind my Zoom screen, you know, I will say we've done a lot of this stuff by conditional use, and what you're talking about is, yeah, it probably should be allowed at Love's, but maybe it ought to be more restricted at Minute Mark. And maybe if UPS wants to go in somewhere for a limited, or under certain circumstances, they ought to be allowed. But if you've got a truck terminal that's going to be, you know, loading gasoline or hazardous materials, or just a huge truck terminal, maybe that doesn't belong in a B2, but maybe some others do belong in a B2. It sounds, I don't know. It sounds like a fairly complicated set of considerations. But as I say that, I want you to know that the Board of Adjustment is working on a very difficult situation right now that you all are aware of down there with Megafit, because we have a conditional use permit allowing manufacturing in a B2 zone. And you guys, when you did that, were thinking about, when you proposed that in the zoning ordinance, you were thinking about the Funky Monkey and florist shops and those kinds of manufacturing things being in a B2. And when Megafit first went in, they only had 8 employees, and it was a very small operation. Now they've got 80 employees, and it's sitting in the middle of a B2 with a conditional use permit. So understand that when we put a conditional use permit requirement on something, the Board of Adjustment sometimes is trying to look in a crystal ball to see what the future holds, and it's very difficult for them to regulate to regulate. It's very difficult. So if you were to say, we're going to allow the parking of trucks, or we're going to allow fleeting operations or whatever in zones A, B, C, and D only by conditional use, that's a difficult thing for the Board of Adjustment to know what to do with.
My knee jerk, or at least my opinion right now, and I think, John, I think we all need to think on this, but maybe and talk about more about the next month's meeting and think on it between. But the point you raised about the B2 and what we've tried to do aesthetically through that B2, again, that 62 quarter, I would agree that probably that's not the place that we would want even a UPS or a FedEx or an Amazon terminal. But I would also say that the HOC 2 and 3, I think that's exactly where those should be. But I'm not sure. What I'd be curious to know, and what something maybe you could look into is how UPS and Amazon distribution centers and FedEx, what are those operations called when it comes to zoning? Because they're dealing with non-hazardous items that I think would fit in an HOC 2 or 3, but we need to make sure that we do limit that. We need to put the wording around that where that it is only that type of packaging that's being shipped in and out. And therefore then that trucking terminal there, parking of trucks there is part and parcel to that operation, I think. And I would think that's what we need to be concerned about more than trying to designate a truck parking area in a zone. I think that's going to create headaches.
Okay, so you may look at the distribution centers, whether it be
Yeah, what do they
Walmart.
call? What's the right way to call those? And so that we could allow something like that, but yet not end up with and again, not you understand when I say this, but we're not talking about a liquid transport.
Yeah,
in
you're
an
talking,
HOC2.
you're talking about non-hazardous freight or
I think
goods.
so. Yeah.
You're talking about, it could be like a Pepsi distributing, it could be an Amazon or
Right.
something am I right there?
That would be my thinking. Yes.
You don't want to run cattle or sheep out of there?
That's exactly right. Right. And I think that would fit in the HOC 2
Sorry,
and 3.
Gary.
And take care of and maybe at least have a spot that if something like that were to come in the area, that would be a good addition to Calvert City, I think.
Okay, all right. I understand what you're saying. I understand it, and I think I've got the right marching orders on that. We'll take a look and see how that's, a lot of people look at it as freight handling. But we'll go into it and look in detail, and we'll actually talk directly with some of the representatives from the different communities and see how they deal with it. So far, like I said, everything I'm seeing is in an industrial zone, but I don't know that they have a zone. If you go out and look, you're not going to find the same zone designations in any
Right.
community. So what we look at as a highway oriented commercial HOC 1 and 2, it may or may not even be anything like that in one of the others, but they have something that would be that way. And so I can work with that. I can get you some information.
And I would, and board, I would think for us, let's think about, then again, the B2 zone, do we want to allow something like that, whether it's truck parking or a truck terminal or a distribution center? And thinking along the lines of what John has reminded us of, which I think is right, that we're trying to think about the aesthetics of that 62 corridor.
Right.
And even an Amazon distribution center probably wouldn't fit there. I wouldn't think. So
Let me, if truck parking is incidental to fuel sales, then know that other gas stations or convenience stores in our B2 areas are also considering and going to submit plans for diesel sales. Now,
Right.
Granted, I don't know that they've got room for that. I don't think incidental, I don't have anything that's room for that, but again, just be aware of that. So,
Yeah.
And right now, it's a matter of right. Fuel sales in a B2 is a matter of right.
yeah.
Okay. But
Well, and
we'll
here
get back,
again-
we'll bring you back the information you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll go back even to Minute Mart and the situation that I know is happening there. I don't know that that's really obtrusive what's going on, and I really don't think that we could. I think we'd be hard pressed to try to stop it because there again, then you got to start timing how long somebody's parked there, and I don't think we will need to be there.
I think you'll find that most of them, the length of time there is generally weekend.
Right, at most. Yeah,
Someone comes in Friday
yeah,
or Thursday and leaves out Sunday or Monday.
right.
And that or they're overnight. Again, those are the same type of issues. It's just they're not dropping the trailer and they're not taking it to their house.
Right, right.
Now, granted, that may not be incidental like it would be at Love's because they're not leaving the trucks. That may be the difference. Where they're staying, generally they're sleeping in the truck. Not always. I'm sure there's some that go home that are from this area that may park out there, but a lot of them are just staying overnight.
I wonder, does Love regulate how long what someone can do? Can someone drop a trailer in their parking lot and leave and leave it for a period of time?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've seen that on a regular basis. And I'm guessing if it is, it's because they've got the truck over in the shop. We're doing some work on it
I would think so.
because they've got a shop in the back where they change tires.
Yeah.
They've had that for a while. And, rather than pull the whole thing up there and block it, they'll drop the trailer, bring the truck over or vice versa. But to answer your question, I don't have a solid answer for that one.
Yeah. Well, what kind of drives that is that if you have a situation that's going on now that someone's parking where they shouldn't be, and we prevent them from parking there, they may decide to move to Love's and start parking and dropping their trailers there. And so I don't know how Love's will. I don't know that the city necessarily cares, but I think Love's would probably care. But I don't know how they regulate that. But
Gotcha. I've never received a complaint about trucks parked at
okay,
Minute Mart.
okay.
So. And I'm only speaking about Minute Mart. Minute Mart, Speedway, or Love's. I've never received a complaint about trucks parking there. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll just leave it at those three.
Yeah.
To do a 15-second step into history, there was a time when you remember when they blew up the federal building in Denver or somewhere like that, where somebody pulled a truck up in front of a federal building and blew it all to pieces.
Omaha.
That became a concern for all over the country, and people parking big old trucks, semis and big trucks here, there, and yonder was a concern. And so back in the day, Minute Mart used to get a lot more. Minute Mart and Suds R Us used to get a lot more attention for trucks parked there because everybody was scared they were going to be full of bombs and they're going to blow stuff up. Hadn't happened in a while, so it's not on the edge of everybody's peripheral vision right now.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments, anybody?
No, I just got a personal comment. The area that you're concerned with, John, I've already had some inquiries or people speak with me wanting to know if there was a truck stop or a terminal coming in that lot that you're concerned with.
Okay.
So hard notice, and at least I run into.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's what it looks like. But again, until I get something, and we've been talking with the current owner, and he's making contact with the person that's doing the operation to have him contact us.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I've got, sir.
All right. All right. Why don't we chew on this, think about this, and then let's talk about this at our next meeting, and that'll be
It'll be this month.
yeah. Well, no, it'll be actually be next month, in the February meeting.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right.
Oh, but my point being is that it's end of January, so we're close. So it's not a couple of weeks away, 3 weeks away. So, but and then John, like I say, see how the wording is for like a UPS, FedEx, Amazon distribution terminal, how those are described in zoning wording, because I think that may be something we might want to consider in the HOT 2 and 3 areas. And then we can deal with, and then for us, y'all, let's think about the B2 area, especially think about the 62 quarter and see if is that a place we want to allow something like that or not? And I think if we look at it that way, the other issues kind of fall out. Because if you don't want a UPS terminal, and my point being is that if you don't want a UPS terminal on 62, then you don't want somebody parking trailers and trucks there on 62 either. If you're willing to allow that terminal, then you got to kind of say, well, we're going to allow trucks to park there because we'd allow a trucking terminal to be there. So it kind of, in my mind, it kind of one question answers the other. But think about that. All right. I think that's all we've got.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion? We adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. A second.
I'll second that.
We got that. That's Miss Kathy. All in favor, say wave at me. And meeting adjourned at 6:21, Crystal. Thank you much, folks.
Uh-huh.
Good evening.